Hello everyone, my name is Genji Nakano, and today my presentation is going to be on should governments create more stringent laws on data security and, more importantly, digital privacy on a national level. So in my presentation I'm going to argue that there should be more stringent laws for digital privacy, which in turn is also we need more stringent laws for digital security as well, because the digital privacy is the information that we provide, and then if that information gets leaked out, then that revolves around digital data security. So I'm going to talk about should there be more stringent laws on both ends. And my argument will be that there should be more stringent laws on a national level. However, I do want to give a little leeway on a state level to give a little bit more flexibility as far as like fines and stuff like that. But I do want to ensure that these companies that don't comply, that they're aware of the consequences if they don't comply with some of the issues that have been springing up in today's society with technology. So I'll also go over, I'll kind of tie into, some recent history of other technologies and also what other countries are doing as well. All right. So currently, for most data security laws, right now, currently it's not consistent among states. The federal government really hasn't passed comprehensive laws dealing with data privacy and security, and therefore, and I think some of the reasons for that is it's a new technology, and so the governments and society doesn't really know what the impact is and what the cost is to each individual. So that's one of the things that's happening. However, as the book mentions, data breaches have been happening since the beginning of technology. Even with paper files, there's been data breaches. You're supposed to secure stuff in your locker with a lock and key, and that sort of thing. Now, currently, with in the digital age, it's a little differently, because not only do you have to worry about access amongst your employees, you've got to also worry about access to malicious, to users of malicious intent as well. Hackers, individuals who just so happen to find other people's information by randomly typing. So they're not necessarily hackers, but they just randomly found some information that they weren't supposed to do. So we got to, figure out, should companies be held liable for that, right? Because they, you would think that they should, or should the consumers be held liable, or not be held liable, but at least, have a say into what laws should be created as far as, the punishment to each individual company, especially when their individual privacy is the one that's getting harmed, right? Not necessarily the company who gets hacked, but the individual themselves. The one thing that that struck me is, in today's age, why hasn't there been more laws, right? Why hasn't there been more stringent laws? And one thing that I always think about is, as an example, is like the automobile or car industry, right? When cars first got created, what laws would make sense at that time? And if laws were passed pretty quickly, within the first year or two of the cars being created, without any flexibility, if it was rigid, would they have an opportunity to advance cars, right? Let's say, for example, the first car, hurt someone going 15 or 25 miles per hour, and they enacted a law, hey, no more cars past 25 miles per hour. How would that stifle the growth of the automobile industry or technology in that sense, right? If those type of laws were created, as they let the industry grow a little bit, right? Give them a little room to grow, kind of see the harm that's happening, and then from there, learn the negative consequences and stuff like that, and then start writing the laws, right? Now, just like the book states about having your negative right, right? You want to have the negative right to drive, but also as the individual who's on the roads and streets as a pedestrian, you don't want to be able to be impacted where the other individual has the freedom to just drive around with impunity. There has to be some sort of justice done to the individual. Okay, just like how justice done to the company who's using like the databases and or collecting the information. We would be the consumers in that sense. Now, but just like when I was thinking about technology, who, as far as getting the information out, whose job or responsibility is that? Should the government tell the companies, hey, you need to learn about X, Y, and Z before you start collecting data and ensuring your data is safe? And as far as consumers, hey, should we need to be notified about A, B, and C before we give out that information to companies? You know, if cars didn't allow consumers, you know, this is kind of a different thing, different scope, but just kind of, you know, thinking in the same concept as far as if cars had to inform customers about how to drive their cars safely, you know, and then consumers then had to learn about it, which they do today, would that make the product safer? As we see today, there's still accidents, there's still, you know, issues that can occur with cars. Now, as far as when you drive in a car, how much do you know about the car? We all get the driver's, like this, you know, the general driving test, but do we know everything that we should know about the car? So when we are on the internet, yeah, we generally know about databases and having, you know, their company should have to secure their data, but how much should they know, or how much should we know about how they're securing their data, or how, you know, the reasons why they're collecting the data? So those are the two things that, you know, needed to be, you know, in the, as far as technology, there needed to be, in my opinion, kind of have free realm for companies. Let them have their right, their negative right, to use that information as well, to, since they're giving us a service that's for free. But now that we've learned, you know, now that technology has developed a little more and we have seen the negative impact, such as these data breaches, right? There's a natural cost to that, and there's a cost to companies and there's a cost to individuals. For individuals, it's a lot more than for these companies. I was reading in the book and also in the news regarding data breaches, and currently companies don't, you know, they're not fined. Every state has different laws even notifying customers. You know, I live in California, so we have pretty stringent laws here, especially with data breaches. So if we get a data breach, we're notified immediately. But in other states, I just realized in other states, some people weren't even required to be notified. In 3 states, South Dakota, Alabama, and one other state I can't recall, they just got notified in 2016, 17, and 18 that they were required to be notified if a data breach happened in their state. So other states didn't you know, really have it happen that way. Another one is fines, right? There's not really any serious fines for companies. What's the worst impact that they get when they get a data breach? They get a negative publicity with the news once it does hit the news, which can happen on average. It's about 96 days. So on average, 96 days has passed since a data breach happened. So your information has been out there for 96 days. You know, it's a negative impact. So they, you know, negative publicity, right? For a few, an email sent to you that says, hey, your data has may or may not have been breached. But I don't think I've been compensated once for any of these data breaches, potential data breaches. No one's, I'm the one who has to take that time out of your data, reset your passwords, and kind of watch your stuff and monitor it. I kind of look back at the Equifax one. I was actually notified in that particular case, and they sent me an email, and then remember, if you recall, they try to give away like a free years of service or something like that. And they're like, hey, no, you need to get 25 or lifetime. You're the one who had your data breached, okay? Right? They had their data breached, but we were the ones who had to have an impact. Them offering a service to monitor our credit for 2 years, They already do that. So there was really no impact. There's no fine and no nothing. So for in that sense, that's why I think that there should be definitely be, some consequences or some procedure steps for companies to take on a national level. They're required to go through every company if they want to collect data in a database. They need that could be potentially hacked. That they need to go through securities or stalls. I mean, the average cost, I was reading the average cost of a data breach is $3.86 million to fix once it's out there. But to have it corrected, to correct it, but to just deploy security and put it in action, it's $2.88 million. So it's a lot of cost, but it's definitely an insurance cost. And as we've seen recently with these data breaches, it's what's called data breach fatigue is happening. Too many data breaches are happening. So therefore, you need to have, our federal government needs to enact these more stringent laws as far as collecting information that goes into databases of any kind that can impact both me and yours lives. And as far as future, computer scientists and engineers, we need to be supportive of that initiative and not look that as a impact on our negative right as a business or company to collect that information. Now, the other thing that ties into that is privacy, digital security. What information should be collected and how much should be able to the federal government should hold companies accountable for holding that information. Now we've currently it's a big issue right now. We've currently heard that the European GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, they have pretty stringent rights. Should we follow that action, right? Now, like I stated, my argument is that we need a national level. Right now, I live in California. Right now, for next year, it's on board for the California Consumer Protection Act. Okay, so let me kind of give you a difference of the GDPR, which people say would be up for, right? That establishes privacy rights, which includes the requirement for companies that collect information about users, that they're going to collect their information for data practices, and also that they need to have explicit permission. As far as California goes, now in my state, they're not only required to ask for permission from you, but they're also required to let you know that your information is being sold to other companies or who's ever using those things. And they're also required that if you ask for them, you could block the sale of the companies. Now, would that impact the company's businesses? Would that make companies leave? Do we need something that stringent in this national federal government that we could stop from having companies do all those things as far as selling your information? Now, these companies give us a free service. They allow us to use their products and services for free, and at our discretion. Now, here's the kicker with the California law: even if you say no, you're still required to allow you to be a user or a client or user service, even if you don't want their information being used. Okay. Now, other states don't want to be that extreme because they do understand that, hey, this may impact their business. So a lot of other companies and states who have businesses in that states don't support the California law. So that now at a national level, this is why I think there needs to be some sort of baseline. Do I think every state needs to be that extreme? Probably not. But I do think that they do need to have some sort of baseline where our protection is something that needs to be looked at. And there needs to be some heavy fines so that these companies do understand that our information should be taken with care, and that they should not be able to use it at their discretion. And also, like I stated, I think that a group of computer scientists could come up with a very comprehensive, simple information collection procedures, best practices, so to speak, so that we can collect information in a safe way. After that, let the states do what they will as far as fines or penalties, or also add additional stuff like California saying, hey, we have the right to, block the sale of our, information to other companies. Some other states may not want that. So, like I stated, but there should be some sort of baseline as of notifying us to let us know that we can use that they are going to use that information and what for. So thank you for your time. I don't want to go too much over. I had a few more minutes I wanted to speak. I just don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Have a good day.